Hey guys, I'm here with another belay device review. This one I hinted at in the past, the Edelrid Megajoule. And so essentially, this is a tubular device. It has two holes so you can do belaying, rappelling on it. It's made by a company in Germany, Edelrid. And I really like what the company stands for because they're all about saving their environment and trying to make these devices to last. So something that's a bit different from this device than from an ATC or many other belay devices on the market is instead of using an aluminum alloy sort of blend, this is made completely out of steel, which is why it's so thin, especially in that little nook right there, is because the material is a lot stronger and it'll also last a lot longer. So if you're using your ATC for, let's say, 4 or 5 days a year in a climbing season for at least 6 months, you'll probably have to get a new ATC after that season, whereas this will last you 2 or 3. And that's the big thing. A lot of Edelrid's materials are built like that, like their quick draws with that steel insert. A lot of their Carabiners, that steel insert, and even some of their other Carabiners, even like this one, which I used for nearly a half a season for my rappel beaner, and it has barely any wear on it at all. So I really appreciate their company and how they're trying to make this stuff to last. The device itself actually has a lot of mixed reviews. It seems as though people either really love it or really hate it, and it's kind of funny. I've been using mine for about 6 or 7 months now, off and on, multi-pitching, single pitch climbing, just experimenting with it to try to get this video going. And I do have some thoughts about it, and I'll sort of spill those in as I go with the video. But this device tends to have some following behind it, and let me just launch into the review. I'm going to start with how you can load it on your harness for belaying a lead climber, how you can use it in belaying from above, and rappelling, and then give my final thoughts about it. So here we go. So here I am with the device ready to go, and I wanted to talk real fast about the carabiner to use with this gadget. So this is a non-mechanical brake assist device. And what I mean by that, sits the wrong way, there we go, is that the way how this actually cams up on the rope is the plate gets forced against the carabiner right here along that little groove. And so one is be careful about the carabiner you use. I've used a couple different carabiners with this and they all seem to work, but maybe a bit of a thinner one will help get a tighter grip on the rope. The carabiner I got right here is one I really don't use too often. It's actually made by Edelrid. It's a strike slider carabiner. You can see how the lock is right here. You open it up. It technically counts as a locking carabiner, but I have a couple stories about these, which I'll save for a different video as to why I don't really use them too much. But it also has this little wire right here. There are a number of these carabiners on the market just to keep the carabiner oriented on your belay loop to keep from cross-loading, and it may be best, especially if you're using this for more lead belaying or single pitch stuff, to have this carabiner, because one thing we do sort of want to avoid with other carabiners, here let me just pull a random one off my harness like the Magnetron, is flipping around. If the carabiner does flip around, which it will do while belaying, and it may affect the pinching on the rope or the the camming brake assist action, depending on the carabiner you use, especially if this point is really pointy. That can affect the pinching on the rope, so that is something to watch out for. That's why I'm going to use this specific carabiner. Alright, cool. So, the way the rope goes into it is if you look at the device, it actually helps you out with pictures right here, I think. Yeah, here's the one for belaying a lead climber. Basically, you want this green loop to be where your thumb is, your thumb of the brake hand. So, I'm going to start by clipping it on. And then here's my rope. I'll thread it through like I normally would through the plate. Then take the carabiner and lock that one so that way both the keeper strap and the rope are in the carabiner. And what I'm going to do, I'll clip this off so that way it's a bit easier to see. Here's my climber strand going up, and then here's my brake strand. Here's my brake hand on the strand. And then what you do is you hook your thumb in the little green loop, and then you hold the plate off of the carabiner. That allows you to thread out rope real easily. Taking in rope, also very easy as long as the device is hovering above the carabiner. If the climber were to fall, you see how that forces the plate up against the carabiner, and that's what enacts, or that's what creates that brake assist feature. In fact, here I'll just hold on to the climber strand, and you can see how effective that brake assist is, because I don't have any brake hand on the rope or anything. You can see how it is holding my weight that I'm putting into it. This is actually one of the better brake assists for this type of non-mechanical device I've seen with the different devices I've used. So cool thing about what Edelrid says, and I got this from an actual Edelrid rep, is when you're paying out slack, here let me pull a little bit more rope through. When you're paying out slack, just keep your thumb in the loop, keep your 4 fingers right here on the brake strand, and you just keep on paying out slack. And another cool thing is, if I flip over, if the climber falls while your thumb is holding this up, is it's supposed to actually force, still go into the locking position, which is kind of nice compared to other types of devices like these on the market. But other than that, you just keep on belaying the exact same. I personally have found that when a climber has fallen and I'm holding this, or like they just want to lower after they've fallen, it is a bit annoying to try to pull this out. When you want to lower a climber, all you do is take the thumb loop and push it away from you, and that all you want is the separation of the plate between the carabiner. And so once you achieve that, that's when the lowering starts happening. But personally, I do think it's a little hard to engage that, especially if the climber is heavier than you and it's a decent sized fall. So one thing I end up doing is I have to put both hands like this, or if I have my brake hand and the thumb, I'll put my other thumb in the same hole and then pull it out. And that's just something that you sort of have to feel for yourself. Other than that, lowering a climber is just the same. All you do is pull this out, and then the rope will start sliding through. Again, with your first time, take it nice and slow so that way you can feel what's happening with the device. So here you can see I went ahead and I just stuck a bit of weight on my anchor right here, so that way you can see the device when it's fully locked up. And I have my brake hand on, my thumb's in the loop. When I want to lower a climber, I just pull this out and the rope starts sliding through. There you go. And then again, it just takes a little bit of practice in order to get that whole system smooth. And it is a lot easier with a backpack than an actual person. Alright, so now let's talk about setting this up belay from above style. I have my megajoule right here, and I actually switched out the carabiner from the last one to a different one without that little gate right there, because I think that's kind of annoying in this application. Either way, here's my other carabiner that's going to connect the device to the anchor. Here's the megajoule. This ring right here is the same ring that you'll hang the device off of while you thread your rope through. And now this can be where it gets a little confusing. The picture may focus, or it may not. You can always go onto Edelrid's website to see this. But this picture shows you how you're supposed to load this device when you're belaying from above. And I'm going to show you that in a little bit right there. But that it helps out with the guide. When I first used this, like the first 10 times or whatever, I had to look at that guide a lot. But either way, so I clipped the device to the anchor through that ring. And now let me show you how to load the rope into it. So here's my climber's end. Give it a little bit of space. And instead of going from the top like we did when we were lead belaying, we're actually going to go from underneath. Push the rope up, then grab your locker, and then there you have it. Yeah, Let's see how that is. And so you can always test by taking the climber's end, giving it a tug, and if you can't pull rope through, then you're good to go, and you can pull on the belayer's end to see if the rope actually does slide through. So that's how in the instructions on top they show you to set it up. I mean, like right here. But I was actually talking to a representative at the Edelrid, and recently they've changed this. And the reason why is when the climber sits, you can see how the ropes are, well, this is also a really thin rope I'm using, but I'm using it to demonstrate how there's that possibility, the same possibility with the GG, for these ropes to actually flip. There you go, it's actually really easy for me to do that. And now the climber's end is not actually breaking. So the way how you get around that problem is, again, here's my climber's end right here. I'm going to pass it up through the device, and I'm going to bring the rope down. And this can get a little tricky. This takes some practice. Let's see if I can do it. Clip all these. Woo, almost lost it there. Clip all these, and then that first strand of the loop, you got to rotate the carabiner so that way the gate's not on the braking side. And there you have it. So you'll notice how, just like the GG, the carabiner is wrapped all throughout the belay device. Yeah, there you go. And now I can pull on the climber's end and rope slides through. Or sorry, I can pull on the brake side, rope slides through just fine, but the climber's end, it locks up. And because of that carabiner being attached to the system like this, there's no risk of the rope flipping. And that's the idea. It does take a little bit of practice. I'll try to shoot it from another angle so that way you guys can see that again, because it's a little confusing at the start, but if you just practice with it, you'll get better and you'll sort of see what I'm saying. Now, just like the GG, if you want to set up your megajoule with twin ropes, then you don't need to have the carabiner threaded throughout the device like that, because the twin ropes, by having the two ropes, it's not going to twist on you. So that is a little bit of a nice part about twin ropes. I find personally that the amount of pull when the carabiner is set up like this versus the other method. See if I can just quickly do that. Almost there. There we go. The friction is about the same. So me personally, just to be in the realm of good habits, I tend to always set up my the megajoule or even the GG. I always set it up like this, just for good habits and being fresh and the mind-bending trick of trying to set that whole rope system up. But that's how you do it with twin ropes. So now let's talk about rappelling with the megajoule. There's actually two different ways you can do it. One with the brake assist and then the other without, which is a very nice feature to have. To set it up with the brake assist, you have your two ropes, just like so. Take the loop, and it does help to have it clipped to you, but just so that way you guys can actually see it. And then thread it in the same way as you would for lead belaying onto your belay loop. And then now you have the brake assist feature. Let's see if I can. There we have it. So, depending on your rope, you will have some slippage. This one's really thin, so I got a little bit of slippage here, but as long as you just hold on to the brake strand like you're supposed to do, that's not really a problem. But you still have help with brake assist. And in order to lower yourself, you just grab the thumb, and pull out, and down you go. Oh. Some people prefer to rappel with the brake assist. I personally don't, because I find it just gets in the way, especially since I like to do a rappel tether with an extension when I rappel, so I don't tend to do brake assist. And then so what you do is, instead of loading it with your brake hand again where your thumb is, just flip the whole thing around. It's actually very simple and very ingenious. Gotta hand it to them. Thread it through, same thing, 2 holes. Put the locker in right there. And now, slides just nice. No added brake assist feature or anything like that. So that's a very nice feature. Me, since I like doing extended rappels with a third hand already, the extra brake assist is unneeded, and so I can just flip it over and then act like a normal tubular belay device to get off the wall, which is a really nice feature. So final thoughts on the Edelrid Megajoule. I think it's actually a pretty good device. I think it's nice to have in your quiver for whatever you need, whatever you feel like you need it for. Me personally, I don't think I would use it too much single pitch climbing, especially not where I'm belaying someone I think is going to fall a whole lot, mainly because it is actually really annoying after they've fallen and the device is tight on a carabiner to pull it out and maintain a steady lower. I feel like it just sort of grips the rope a little tight. And if maybe they sat down on the rope like they took and then lowering them down, it would be a bit nicer and easier. But after they've fallen, lowering someone, it's kind of annoying on this device. Multi-pitch climbing, I actually bring this out multi-pitch climbing a lot, but only when I'm using twin ropes. And that's either for belaying my friend, lead belaying them, in order to have the brake assist, which is kind of nice on twin ropes, or maybe not so much belaying them from above, because a lot of times I'll have my ATC with me and I'll just use that because it's a little bit easier to deal with, as well as it's a little less friction pulling through. But lead belaying with twin ropes, this is probably my go-to device, because it is a lot less work than 2 arm lengths with the ATC versus just the one with this device. And so I feel like that's what I would do, is multi-pitch climbing with twin ropes. This is going to be on me. It could very well be the only device I bring. That'd be fine, but I'll probably also have an ATC with me while I do this. It's also very nice for guides, because since you can have your thumb holding it up and it'll still lock up if the climber falls, the climber falls, you can give this to a very inexperienced belayer, like a client of yours that you maybe just taught to belay earlier that day or earlier that week, and you can feel pretty secure if you were to fall on this device, especially with how much the pinching action works, in the assisted braking action works, especially on slightly thicker ropes. The ropes I was using to demonstrate are 7.8, so they're both half ropes. So if you have like a 9 mil or 9.2 or 9.6, which I use for guiding in this thing, then it's going to pinch pretty hard, even if the client didn't really understand what was going on in the event of a fall. So this is a really good device to have while guiding, and that's the reason why I always have this actually in my backpack in the very bottom while I'm out working. Is if I have an untrustworthy, but just a less experienced client, I can give them this device and feel a bit more secure in what I'm doing. But other than that, I think it is a very nice device. I think it's maybe more of a secondary device. So again, learn on a non-assisted braking tubular device like the Petzl Reverso or the Black Diamond ATC, and probably own one of those for whatever you need. And this wouldn't be like the device to learn how to belay on, because of all the extra functions and features and how it's more high-tech and more difficult to deal with at times. So I feel like it would be good device for an experienced climber, or even just a smaller amount of experience, but you need to have some experience to deal with the extra bells and whistles on this device, even though it looks very simple, just being a small piece of metal. But dealing with it the right way, you do want to have some experience belaying. I wouldn't give this to a person I'm teaching how to belay, unless I'm just working with them for a day or so in that guiding sense. But if I'm teaching someone to belay for, for their entire life, I'm gonna give them something a little bit different to start off with. Either way, that's my final thoughts. Again, I think this is definitely worth having, especially as like a backup device or anything like that. But it has a few more complexities to it. But there you have it. That's the Edelrid Megajoule.